So many of the guys picked in these movies feel like buff guys with muscles that just say stuff in a tough voice. And I'd like to see more character actors that dive deeper into their roles.
I'm laughing. You want Shakespeare with bongs. Hi, I'm Teresa. Welcome to Cocoon Cast, where we deep dive into movies and discuss all things cinema.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. Today we will be discussing the new movie, The Expendables 4. And on our Retro Rewind, we will be discussing the first Expendables movie.
We also have some suspenseful Hollywood news.
Did you hear the one about the new soundstage? We'll tell you about it later in the show.
Great, let's get started.
It's been 10 years since we've last seen The Expendables on the big screen, and Barney Ross is looking to retire. He thinks he's picked the perfect successor, Lee Christmas. But the two friends quickly realize that leading the team means two different leadership styles. Has Barney made a mistake and lost his friend? Or is Lee the fresh perspective the team needs?
Rebecca, you chose this movie. Only you chose this movie. I know I did not choose this movie. So help our cinema community understand why you chose this movie.
I pitched this movie to the Cocoon Cast team, and regretfully, you were outvoted.
I was completely outvoted.
On whether to see this movie, because we honestly haven't had a whole lot of good action movies this summer. The Expendables is a franchise that's been off the grid for a while, and I kind of wanted to see what a new direction would look like.
And your thoughts are?
So disappointed.
Ooh, talk about that.
I was disappointed because, let's face it, the Expendables movies aren't the greatest action movies in the world.
No, you're lying.
But they're a fun time if you go into the movie with the right mindset, that you're going to get a campy, cheesy, explosion-filled movie with some plot elements that may or may not make sense and a bunch of tropes you've seen a million times before.
Wow, that's such a sell point. I personally, you'd said you were disappointed. I was completely disappointed. And and listening to you, right? You're hyping it up. You're like, it's exactly what you said. It's campy, it's fun, it's exciting. And it doesn't help when our Cocoon Cast, team is chanting, go see it, go see it, go see it. And then I went and saw it. And I was disappointed, even though I thought, okay, maybe it's me. I know I'm not their ideal demographic, middle-aged woman, Michael Bay explosions, bad acting, bad script, bad acting.
Welcome home, honey.
Do you read now?
What is this?
It's classified.
I was slightly optimistic, but I did try to go in with an open mind, understanding our cinema community sees movies that maybe I don't. I'd love to hear from our cinema community what they loved about it, because I was having a hard time finding the love.
Well, the other thing I'd like to hear from our cinema community, if they see this movie,
yes,
is compare it to the other Expendables movies. Is there an Expendables movie you like more than this, or is this your favorite one?
Well, and we'll talk about one, because we've seen two of them at this point. But I was so disappointed, and I need a different word other than disappointed, but I was so
unamused.
Was that something? And to be clear, I'm not the hugest Sylvester Stallone fan. Grew up watching Rambo with my dad because, we all have a box in our life. Saw, Rocky. Rockies were pretty good, actually. Some of the other movies he's done is pretty good, but his acting, I know you and I were talking about, I was having a hard time understanding him.
Well, you have a hard time understanding him from an audio perspective. I have a hard time understanding him from the decisions he makes as an actor.
Well, okay, and that would be fair, because this was, and there were, to give the movie a little bit of credit, right? There's a few twists and turns, few unexpected things, but it just right out of the gate, I mean, they're in this bar, there's this fight, he loses his ring. Sorry, that's the only spoiler I'll give. But then, Jason Statham comes in and, I'll get it back. And I'm like...
He had to be dragged into it.
Yes.
If your character has to be dragged into doing something for your best friend who you've known for...
Oh, no, he's not his friend. He's my brother, right? I'm right. Like, oh, wow. All right, they're brosies. Nice.
They're having a bromance.
They're having a bromance.
Some of the script feels internally inconsistent, but in some ways feels consistent with places you wouldn't expect. So it feels like the script got written after two drafts of somebody seeing the first three Expendables movies and going, I can write another one.
Okay, after watching the first one, I could write the fifth one, and I don't think it would be that great.
I feel like it would be a lot better than this movie.
I don't know. I was so disappointed. The screenplay was just inconsistent. I know one of our team was, as we were walking out saying, did you notice this was inconsistent? This was bothering me, and I couldn't get this out of my head. And I'm thinking, okay, let's give
One or
some
two
lives.
things is fine. But
Well,
like a list?
No, and that's the thing, is our team isn't necessarily overly critical. We do talk about things. We kind of say, well, maybe we missed something. But once it was expressed, it was like, yeah,
It just opened the floodgates, unfortunately.
Well, and then you said something, and then it was like, oh, and pretty soon we were like, oh my gosh, there was so much inconsistency. And the screenplay, not overly engaging. The acting was, oh my goodness, the acting was something else, because I think Jason Statham can act. I do believe
there was some really good moments where I feel like him and Stallone had some good chemistry to bounce off together.
Hey, why are you here?
I got this situation where I need your help.
I need bad friends.
And I think it helped that they'd been in the previous Expendables movies bouncing off of each other like this. But the problem I have is it was so uneven at points where it just felt wooden. It felt like that they were playing parodies of themselves. Not, these are characters who happen to act like other characters that they've done.
Well, and I don't know when they're trying to be funny.
You almost killed me! You're welcome!
And I
Really?
Truly, I think I have a reasonable sense of humor.
I hope so.
Yeah, well,
Otherwise, I'm screwed.
yeah, right. And that's the thing, is I'm happy to laugh. I'm happy to chuckle with somebody if they're poking at themselves. But I couldn't tell. I'm like, are they that unaware, or is that just they think it's funny? And then Megan Fox. Here comes Megan Fox, right? She's, glamour gal, and, she's dating Jason Statham, which feels weird in of itself. It's like the two of them together. I don't think I'd put them together chemistry-wise. But here she comes. She's got this,
her first scene is her yelling at him. Like, that's not how you build sympathy for a character.
right. And you look at her and you
She
go,
looks like
he's
this.
with this crazy woman. I don't know. I mean, he's crazy too. So let's be clear. But it was like, wow, and they're having this fight, and he's talking to Sylvester Stallone like, wow, ball and chain over here. I'm like, whoa, that's not going to go well.
Well, and it's especially because Megan takes on a greater role within the movie after that scene.
She does. She takes a huge role.
I would argue that they needed to build her more sympathy in that opening scene.
Likability.
Yeah, like build up to that, and then she gets mad at Jason Statham's character Lee Christmas.
Sure.
Then you can kind of understand she's mad for a reason, not she comes off as this shrew-like woman.
Right, and
Just
you don't
throwing motorcycle helmets at him. It just makes me not want to watch him. Just go, man, she's kind of annoying.
Well, and okay, and I think you may have seen this too. Different scenes, right? She's, becoming, a little action woman, and and, she's got her little weapons and everything. And I say little weapons, right? Everybody has, hand grenades in their back pocket, literally. But after every scene, her hair is perfect. And at one point, I laugh because she turns to the camera and, her hair does a, which none of her hair does.
And it's not in slow motion, mind you.
No, but it felt like that. It's kind of like, whoa, 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 whoa. And I look at her lipstick, and she just, killed a bunch of people in this fight, and it's like perfect lipstick. And I'm like, oh, come on, don't do it. And she had little, a couple blood spatters on her. So, okay, so, she's been roughed up. And I thought, oh my.
The people that complained about Bryce Dallas Howard not getting any dirt, any scratches on her in Jurassic World are going to have a field day with Megan Fox in this movie.
Oof. And I don't know her well as an actress. I can't. I mean, I know she was in Transformers back in the day.
Megan was also in the live action 2000s Mutant Ninja Turtles movies, which I did end up watching after a review. And her acting is so much better in that than it is in this. And that's painful because the gap of time between that is greater than the gap of...
Well, and for me, right, I'm still learning about her acting. Like I said, I have very limited experience with her. If this was my only experience, I would say, oh, it's a beautiful woman, but, ooh, cast again, try again. And the explosions. Let's talk about some of the effects.
These effects aren't very special, to quote one of our family members.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and honestly, it's funny because all the action, and I understand, right? There can be action fatigue, and everybody's blowing.
It just wasn't impressive.
It was fatiguing, but it was just boring. It's just like, how many ways can you kill? And I understand, right? They had done an R rating for previous movies, then they went to PG, and now there are, and the graphicness is R rated for sure. However, it wasn't. I don't really enjoy violence particularly, so it's not like it's enjoyable violence, but it was just like gratuitous, too much. But understanding some people, that's what they go in there for, I suspect.
It's gonna be fun.
I was just really annoyed because it felt like the writing team and the actors were counting on the goodwill that the previous franchise installments had earned to kind of carry them through this disaster.
Wow.
And I don't like, especially as an audience member, being taken advantage of in that way.
And that's how you felt. You felt taken advantage of.
I would love to erase the memory of this movie.
Wow. And you might.
I would love to just pretend the franchise ends with 3.
Well, and I've heard that some people are like, after I go see it, I forgot it. And it's pretty short. It's like, woof. And clearly we've seen it, so it's a little bit more fresh. However, it is going to be curious if in a day or so, are we still going to remember this? And is it going to be, well, we have a Cocoon Cast episode of it, so therefore we do recall. Do we have any questions from the box?
As our thumbnail says, is this the Forgettables 4? Is there any redeeming quality in this movie?
I did like some of the interactions that Jason Statham and Sylvester Stallone had, but those are very few and far between.
Wow. Okay. Like, is it forgettable? What were we talking about? Oh, wait. No. Do we have any questions from the box?
Do you think maybe doing a prequel with younger versions of these stars might be interesting? Because this had young actors and I wasn't impressed.
Wow.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, the box has a thought. Well,
I think a prequel could be interesting. I know there's always talk of, we were over here when this happened. We were encountering this. I think that could create a lifeline for the Expendables.
I like the term lifeline because in my mind, lifeline, it feels like it needs some life and a lifeline. However, I just hope they're done.
Oh, yikes.
I know. And I think, it's just like, I just was not impressed. I'm like, please don't make more.
You know what was really sad? We watched another film last week. It was called The Retirement Plan.
Correct. I recall.
I thought that film was bad. This is so much worse.
Oof. Yes, agreed. Rebecca, it is that time in the show. I have 5 moths, and they kind of have an idea of where this might be going.
I'm going to turn off the light because there's half a wing there.
Ooh, how do I do that? Half a wing. Wow, not even a 1.
No.
And that's your lowest rating?
So far on the show, yes. Including our pre-production shows, that is my lowest rating.
That is correct. So number 1 reason why a half a wing?
I almost fell asleep during 5 different points in this movie.
Oof.
I had some coffee beforehand, so I'm definitely caffeinated. I also had a 2-hour nap.
Right, so you're well rested.
I am well and truly rested. I wanted to see this movie. I wanted to enjoy this movie. I've been blithely enjoyed all the other installments in the franchise, but this one was just severely disappointing.
Wow. So
if I want to forget that this installment exists, terrible.
Wow. Would you, well, I think I know the answer, but for our cinema community that may be curious, would you recommend this movie?
It's not worth a watch. Stick with 3.
Wow. All right. Well, Are
you going to give it a 0?
I feel like I am.
The moths have left the building today.
The moths have left the building.
I guess the crickets moved in.
They better not be trying to get me to change my mind. I felt terrible because people have worked on this movie, people have made money, but I can't in good conscience say it's worth a watch. It's worth a skip. It's just not watchable.
This is the movie that I'll put on in the background if I'm cleaning and I vaguely want some noise.
Oh, well, okay, so if people believe it may be worth a watch or more than a wing or a half a wing or a moth somewhere in the greater scheme of things, Who do you think that the ideal audience would be for this movie?
I think the ideal audience is somebody who comes in for the nostalgia bait, but stays for people wanting to give the audience something.
Cinema community, we'd love to hear from you. Maybe you're planning to see the movie. Maybe you've seen the movie already. We'd love to hear your comments and your thoughts below.
If you enjoyed our review on The Expendables 4, please like, which helps more viewers find our cinema community, and subscribe so you don't miss our upcoming reviews, and please share with your friends. And now it's time for a Retro Rewind. This week we chose the first Expendables.
Barney Ross isn't a soldier anymore. He's a mercenary for hire along with his best friends. However, Barney starts questioning his life when he is suddenly caught in a game of cat and mouse when the latest client hires them to take down a rogue CIA agent. With his team backing whatever decision he makes, Barney will have to choose what is the right thing for them and for him. Rebecca, tell us why you chose this movie.
Seeing the new Expendables movie so long after the first one almost invited a retro rewind. I kind of wanted to see how it started from the beginning again.
And you're saying the word again. I had never seen the first one. Pretty clear on not a big fan of the fourth one, which is the recent installment. I wanted to give it a shot. I wanted to learn about it. I understood that, I don't know much about it. You had seen it in the theater originally, correct?
That's correct. Every Expendables movie I've seen is in initial release within the first 2 weekends of its premiere.
Okay. And it's fair to say, I haven't seen it. I want to get the foundation. That way I'll either fall in love with the characters or I will wonder why I'm there.
That's a good way to put it. There's also a lot of running jokes that kind of pepper throughout the franchise, and there is character growth. The characters do grow. It's just almost at a glacial pace sometimes.
Well, that's why they have 4 of them. They can grow slow. I know for me, I understand this one came out in 2010. I honestly, we were just talking about the fourth one. Didn't like the fourth one. I actually like this one more than I like the most recent one.
Which is hilarious because to me, this is still at the midpoint of my Expendables ratings for me.
Okay, that's fair. But I didn't like it. I liked it more.
That's not saying much either.
It's actually saying a bit more. And, cast of characters, Sylvester Stallone, Jason Statham back again, still like him. But I don't know. It was funny, too, because I know there are some people in there. Bruce Willis is in there.
For like 5 seconds.
Yeah, well, I love Bruce Willis.
He gets a bigger role in the sequels, so don't...
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I love Bruce Willis. Eric Roberts was the baddie.
Eric Roberts is a really great campy baddie.
He was a good baddie. I'll give him that.
Whoever runs the casting department for the first 3 films did a great job. They kind of fell off a little bit on the fourth one.
Little bit. They're like, where'd they go? I think they were probably trying to bring in a younger crew and, bring the love back and, beat it to death or something. But I will say, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I was laughing because Bruce Willis came in and you were saying that, well, sometimes the people you think are the good guys are the bad guys. And a lot of these action heroes from the 80s, I just know them as good guys. So I'm like, oh, Bruce Willis is coming. You're like, oh, don't get too excited. And I'm like, oh, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the governor of California. Oh, no, wait, that's back when he was acting. And still, you just don't know. And you said, no, they may not all be good guys.
That's the thing I like about this franchise is they attempt to give you some twists and turns. This isn't Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, but hey, it's going to try to give you a good time.
And I did notice that David Callahan had written the screenplay. And he's written, Doom with The Rock, right?
Yes, the early 2000s.
The early 2000s. And then what's the one that you like? The Shang-Chi?
Shang-Chi.
I can't even say it. And he wrote that with Sylvester Stallone, with this one.
Oh, I thought you were going to say he wrote Shang-Chi with Sylvester Stallone. I'm like, what?
Well, and he did the Spideyverse, right?
Yes, he is also credited for working on the first Spider-Verse film.
So I thought, okay, maybe he'll be pretty good. But this movie was not that spectacular.
This is more veering towards the new Mortal Kombat and his work on Wonder Woman, unfortunately.
Oh, that's right. The 1984 Wonder Woman, correct?
Yes.
Well, was not impressed. Honestly, we laugh about movies being forgettable. This was slightly forgettable, and we'd only seen it, 3 days ago?
That's correct. So for our retro rewinds, we'll watch them earlier in the week to kind of give us a little treat to kind of tide us over before the new movie comes out.
Yeah, and it was rated R. I know we had said that they had, hit a PG slump, if you will. I wasn't impressed with that, and it was boring to me. I mean, truly, truly boring to me. And I remember saying to you, I said, how do I know which one's the bad guy and the good guy? And you're like, how do you not know? And I laugh because
You were so zoned out that you didn't know.
well, it's true. And I laugh because I'm like, okay, if they're wearing a black beret, they're good. If they're wearing a red beret, they're not so good. That's how I was starting to sum it up.
And that's kind of sad because
Oh, it's totally sad, I
you
think.
want to be invested in these characters, especially because the emotional capital that's already being gained from actors that you know.
Well, in the one scene that I really did like was Mickey Rourke.
Yes.
And, he's a little tattoo artist. And I laugh because all of a sudden the music slows down. It's like this. Wah,
I love the lighting in that scene. That scene is always very beautiful to me.
Well, and it's like this heartfelt moment where he talks with Sylvester Stallone's character. And I was like, okay, that's pretty good.
I want more of that in this franchise. It doesn't have to be all serious all the time, but I do want to feel with the characters. I do want to kind of join myself on their journeys and want to take that with them.
Well, and they could have done more. I think that was the disappointing piece to me. It's like, oh, they can do this, and then gone. And then they never did it again.
It's just this random anomaly. I think, if I remember correctly, that's Mickey Rourke's only appearance in this franchise.
I believe that is correct. And you said, Bruce Willis shows up in the other ones, and that would mean I would need to see the other ones to see Bruce Willis. And I kind of go, ooh.
Well, you got to see Chuck Norris making a Chuck Norris joke about Chuck Norris.
Right.
Oh, that's so beautiful, though.
Oh,
that's
well,
great.
and then I laugh because it's like, oh, you should see one so you know what's going on. And then it's like, oh, you should watch the other ones. They're better. I'm like,
they are so much better.
well, that's so relative. I don't believe you now. I don't believe the box. The box was like, yeah, we should go see it. Janet, me go see it. I'm like, I think I'm getting taunted. I think I think there's like little side bets of like, do you think she'll go see it? And if she does, what will she think about it?
It's not like Mission Impossible where the quality it keeps just astronomically jumping.
That's huge. That's a good comparison. I appreciate that.
But it is noticeable. The characters do have growth arcs.
Sure.
And they still kind of talk about things that they've experienced in the previous films. In fact, in the newest film, they mentioned this first movie, which is why I'm really glad you saw it. And there's also a joke that got carried through, too.
But I don't know if the payoff was as good for me. But I did hear people, they laugh, they like it. And I think that's great. It made money.
Oh, serious money.
Serious
I was
money.
amazed the amount of money that this film made considering the critical backlash that it received upon release.
Well, and the concept is not a terrible one, which is, bring together, all these people from the 80s, all these people, maybe early 90s, Mel Gibson and, all these people that people know.
Mel Gibson's in I want to say the third one.
Okay, that's fair. But, within the franchise. And I'm like, okay, people you don't see for a while. And I think people were getting on board with that. And they're like, oh, that's really cool. Sylvester Stallone, all of his buddies, this is good. And then it comes out and I'm like, oh, wow, this is pretty forgettable to me.
And it's sad because, again, at the same time period, we had franchises like Fast and Furious also trying to tap into this market of action stars that may not necessarily be known. Vin Diesel probably would have been the highest known actor in terms of recognition capital.
Okay, that's fair. No, and I agree with that. But that's a good comparison, although it's not a good comparison because, during our pre-production, I had seen Fast and the Furious or Fast X. Still wondering where the seatbelts are, but I suspend that thought just to watch. I actually enjoyed that more than I did this one, and I wasn't sure what I would be thinking about Fast and Furious. Other than, maybe not. We'll see. I would love to hear our cinema community. If you enjoyed it more than I did, I'm happy to hear. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And maybe there's something I'm missing that really is significant that makes this movie wonderful. And like you said, a lot of loyalty. A lot of people are excited about it. I'd love to hear that because, right, this is the first one and they've made 3 more since.
I'd also love to see our cinema community Expendables rankings Maybe there's like a
that would be
trend
good.
specifically in our audience, or maybe we're a little bit outside the trend per se.
Ooh, outside the trend.
I always just like to see what people think and how they come to that conclusion.
Exactly. And the why and the how, that I love to hear, because it's not just, oh, it's good. It's, but why? Do we have any questions from the box?
Do you think the franchise shouldn't have happened and we should just had the one and done? Or do you think the franchise deserved, after this movie, to continue to go?
I think the franchise was okay to continue to keep going. I think this would have been a decent one and done, but I think the fact that they chose to keep going was kind of cool, because it's like, okay, how can we push it further? How can we grow? And especially as some of the previous franchises I had mentioned in the review, like Mission Impossible, that could have been a really nice one and done. Fast and Furious, that could have been a nice one and done, but they kept pushing the envelope and forcing their characters to grow, and I think that makes the experience enjoyable for me.
Well, and as you said, future installments, except for 4, you liked more.
Significantly, yes.
Well, and to me, that says something, that you're invested enough to see it again, and it actually got better. And Mission Impossible is a good example. Would you say something like John Wick or The Matrix is in that camp also?
I would argue John Wick is more in that camp, or Triple X.
That I haven't seen either.
That's fair.
Great. Oh, great. There's more.
If we're going to talk Vin Diesel, we got to talk
I'm
Triple
laughing. Help me, cinema community. Help me, cinema community. Do we have any questions from the box?
Are there other action stars that have not been in the franchise that you would like to see in the franchise?
I'd like to see some more character actors in this franchise. So many of the guys picked in these movies feel like buff guys with muscles that just say stuff in a tough voice. And I'd like to see more character actors that dive deeper into their roles.
I'm laughing. You want Shakespeare with bombs. All right, Rebecca, it is that time. 5, flying moths. We heard what happened to them last time, and they're a little afraid this time. However, they're coming back because they want to hear what you think of Expendables 1.
This is a pretty chill movie. 1.5.
1 and a wing.
1 and a wing.
1 and a wing. Number 1 reason for the 1 and the wing.
It's not entirely forgettable, but it's kind of almost has a diversion type feel.
All right. And so you think the average Anthony, typical Tina would go see this movie, like this movie?
I think the average Anthony, typical Tina, might enjoy this on like a Saturday night in. Just pop it on, throw on some popcorn. You're done having dinner, might as well watch a movie.
All right. So you think it's worth a watch?
I think it's worth a watch because it's almost interesting to see the legacy of the 80s and the 90s kind of transfixed into an early 2000s lens.
Wow. All right. Well, surprise, surprise. I'm going to rate it lower, but there will be a moth in the building this time.
Oh, good. All right. They haven't all left.
They haven't all left. So 1 flew back and said I would give it a 1. Primarily, well, wow. My moths are conspiring. All right. 1. Let me do this.
All right.
I would say a 1 and a wing,
Okay.
but for different reasons.
All right.
1 and a wing because the cast, I did like the cast. And obviously Bruce Willis is, someone that I just think is wonderful. So Bruce Willis, although I'm not a big fan of Sylvester Stallone, I do believe the idea for the movie was pretty creative.
And do you feel like it succeeded in that idea?
Ooh.
Well, I'm trying to...
It had a good idea. That's about where I left it.
Okay.
It was a good idea for what it was out of the gate, 2010, right? Going back in the day. I think he was reasonably successment. Am I going to rewatch it? In my mind, is it worth a watch? I would think, like you said, maybe a date night, or it has a feeling that it might be kind of back what you were saying about the retirement community. It's like, yeah, it's a date night movie if you're, making out in the back row. To me, that might be a little bit more exciting than the movie.
Making out is definitely probably more exciting.
Yeah, I know. Especially from this movie, right? I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm here. But yeah, I just didn't find it that enthralling. However, I think the cast and Sylvester Stallone's star power to bring people together, I did appreciate that. So I think it's worth a 1 and a wing. And based on our cinema community and their desire to see it, it could be worth a watch. Hey, Rebecca, it is that time of the show to talk about who we are not sponsored by. Who do you think we're not sponsored by this week?
Bob's Military Supply Shack.
Who's Bob?
Okay, so that answers that question. Definitely not Bob. Who
Oh.
are we sponsored by?
I'm like, we should have asked Bob. Bob should have sponsored us. All these little berets and, man, weapons. We're asking Bob next time.
Okay.
No. We are not sponsored by AJT Jewelry.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, do you know about this company? They're in Australia, down under.
I've got a few Aussie friends. Maybe they know about them.
All right. Well, let's tell our cinema community who is not sponsoring us this week. If you've seen Expendables 1, 2, 3, 4. The skull ring that Sylvester Stallone wears.
Ah, the signature skull ring, too.
Have you seen this ring? Have you seen the eyes and the skull? It's literally the skull. It has little propellers for eyes and bullets for teeth.
Bullets for teeth is kind of cool.
Okay, not my kind of piece. If your dad would have presented that to me and said, "Hey, will you marry me?" I'd be like, "Oh, wow, no." And to be clear, the box does not wear such jewelry either. However, other people do.
Who are some of these people?
Well, funny you should ask.
These people.
Our buddy, the Governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I can't do it. I'm not too good at that. Arnold Schwarzenegger. I should probably just say it right.
Yeah, we should just say.
Elton John.
Elton John's cool.
Slash.
Oh, yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, Guns N' Roses. Jamie Foxx with 2 X's. Lenny Kravitz.
You like Lenny.
Yes, and your gal, the model gal, Cara.
Cara Delevingne.
Easy for you to say. Yes. And that's just a few people. So back in Melbourne in 2013, Anthony T.
Oh, I guess he's a not-so-average Anthony.
He's not, well, right. He's pretty like fancy Anthony. I think we should call him fancy Anthony as versus typical Anthony. So average Anthony says he started on a kitchen bench in 2013 making these jewelry pieces. And so what do you think he makes? You think he just makes skull rings?
That sounds pretty cool. Does he make other stuff too?
He does. Him and his company, they have apparel, and if you like skull t-shirts and sweatshirts and hoodies, he makes them.
I think I like those a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say, you'd like it. He does bracelets, necklaces.
I could have been wearing one of these pieces if you would have been sponsoring us. I use my hands all the time. Perfect exposure for
I know,
the
it's
rings.
like, hi, everybody. And here's the thing. He makes them in sterling silver, and I found this interesting. He makes them in 9-karat gold, which is kind of different. 10-karat gold, pretty typical. 14-karat gold and 18-karat gold, which is a little bit on the squishier side. However, fancy, he not only does skulls, although that seems to be the big thing, right? If you go and you check out his stuff, he has all the pictures of, it's like him with his arm around everybody and one of the celebrities going, So yeah, they're liking this stuff. But yes, bracelets, necklaces.
Do they have like any special necklaces? Because you've been talking a lot about the rings.
Okay, well, fair enough, right? He does. I know you and I had talked about it, actually. He does lion pieces. And you had said something to me. You know about what he does with the lion pieces. You've heard of him.
So I'd heard about him because I'd seen some of his other pieces. I didn't make the connection. It was the same guy who does these lion necklaces. They actually have proceeds that go to Kevin Richardson's Wildlife Sanctuary. It's a sanctuary in Australia specifically to take care of lions. They don't say what percentage, but it is advertised as taking a percentage from the profits for this thing.
Well, and they have Caesar necklaces, which actually I kind of like those. I mean, they're big, they're flashy. If you've seen the Expendable movies, this is what he sells. It's not like, oh, well, celebrities, I'm going to do the big giant one. It's like, no, that's what they sell.
I mean, it kind of goes with the whole boys thinking about nothing but the Roman Empire meme kind of going around right now.
Oh, yeah. No, his stuff is, if you like that look, he is the guy. The only problem of it is this guy, this not so typical, right? This not so average Anthony is not choosing to sponsor us, even though we're highlighting his guy, right? Sylvester Stallone is his guy. And this ring is a big part of this movie.
In fact, it's a major plot point, spoiler alert, in number 4.
That's right. And still, you think he's going to be like, oh, hey, I'm going to get some business. Megan Fox, and she wasn't wearing one, but, she could have been. Still no sponsoring us.
Still not sponsoring us.
Yeah, so although we like him a lot, thanks so much for not sponsoring us today. If you've already seen Expendables 4 or the first Expendables and want to watch or share our review with a friend, head over to our companion channel, Cocoon Cast Clips, where we take this show and cut it up into bite-sized clips. Perfect when you're short on time or just want to share a bite-sized review with your cinema community.
It's the time in the show where we want to hear from you, our cinema community. We'd love to see you standing outside of your favorite movie theater with your cinema community. Please send your photo to hello@cocooncast.com. Be sure to tell us who you are and what movie you're going to see so you can show our community your cinema spirit. Now let's talk about the cool comments we've been getting, Teresa.
First up, we have a comment from Joe Jetsky, friend of Cocooncast. Joe Jetsky has commented before. Joe Jetsky says, this is about our review last week from The Retirement Plan. Here's what he said. He said, if you don't take it seriously and go to laugh and see a few creative action scenes, you might like it. Might like it. But see it on bargain night or as a free movie with your movie rewards. If you pay full price on a Friday night, you'll probably be disappointed. What do you think?
I wholeheartedly agree. In fact, this movie kind of raised its estimation to me, especially after we saw the new Expendables movie. I realized we were a little spoiled with that movie, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. Definitely, if you're paying full price, you're getting cheated with this movie. Every movie theater usually has like some nights if everything's half off. And even if you go earlier in the day, there's like a 30% off.
That's true. And that's true, I think, of most larger theaters and some of the smaller ones. Some of the smaller ones have like, $5 day or $6 day. So
there's always ways to save, especially with a smaller movie like this.
Well, and I wanted to share a comment with our Cocoon Cast community. Sometimes the comments don't make it to the YouTube comment section, and we do have people that kind of pull us aside or see us. And one person in our cinema community really made me laugh, pulled me aside and said, hey, I saw your review on The Retirement Plan. And oh, good. Did you watch it? Did you go see it? And this person said, no, I was laughing so hard at your review, but I don't think I want to go see the movie now. And I thought, oh, wow. And I said, why? And this person, it was funny because he had said, well, I appreciated, there's a little bit of B-roll. I saw, kind of the punching scene, and Nicolas Cage, he's not my favorite, but he didn't look like he was overly funny. But his comment was very much about the review. And he said, wow, the review was pretty rough. And I really thought about it. That was the lowest review up until today that we had ever given here.
And that's not including pre-production, too.
That is true. We were doing pre-production before we launched and still not as low. But of course, right, I appreciate our cinema community watching, commenting, not to discourage people, but just the engagement of, I was laughing, but I was informed. I was laughing, but I appreciated what you were saying because we try to be as honest as possible and balanced as possible.
Well, and the feedback also helps us figure out what parts of the review are you looking to find.
That's right. That's right. So I would also say, obviously, comment below. We always appreciate that. But if you see us out and about and you're with your cinema community, pull us aside, grab us, tell us what you think. We're always happy to talk
Within
about
reason,
movies.
Please be polite. We might be going to see another movie.
That's right. We'll drag you along and you can join our cinema community. And now it's time for some Hollywood news. Rebecca.
Well, before I talk about our big story this week, I just want to give everybody an update. The WGA is in talks right now. Not SAG-AFTRA, just WGA right now. It's been a couple days, so progress is being made. It is slow, but it's there.
Great. So hopefully next week on Cocooncast, we'll have an update of where they're at, because as you said at the time of this recording, no definitive action, no agreements or anything at this point.
All we know is there are butts and seats in a conference room.
There it is. Anything else going on?
The more exciting news.
Oh, tell us about the more exciting news.
So Warner Brothers has a existing soundstage in England.
Yes.
It's at, Livesden.
Okay.
It's geographically placed there. And it already exists, but they're going to be expanding it.
Ooh. And the reason for that?
This is huge. This is huge because this is adding 400,000 square feet.
400,000?
Yes.
Holy moly, that's
This
crazy.
creates the space for 10 new sound stages. This project...
Oh, so it's not just one and it's one... Yeah, all right, now I understand it.
So the cool part about this is a multi-year project.
Sure, I would believe that.
But this is supposed to be the main hub for DC Studios.
Ooh.
James
Wow.
Gunn and Peter Safran are actively overseeing part of this project for them.
Well, and it should take, like you said, multiple years, correct?
Correct.
Not boom, 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 boom. Do they have an end date in mind, or is it just we're starting and?
We're starting, and we estimate it's going to take 3 years.
Okay.
So
well, 3 years is
2024,
still pretty
2027.
crazy, though, don't you think? I mean, 3 years and 400,000, it's like building like a little city or something.
I think it's kind of neat. I sound very old. It sounds kind of neat. It sounds kind of neat because it shows that Warner Brothers is really taking an active investment in their properties after the horrendous year they've had so far.
That they're investing, and they're investing a lot, correct?
Yes, and especially with the new Aquaman movie coming out on the heels of The Flash, almost creating a new paradigm for the DCU, it shows that they haven't given up. Now, granted, I'm curious to see if this is not just for DC films, but also for bringing back some DC TV shows.
Do we have any questions from the box?
With James Gunn being really involved in this, what do you think that means for the future as far as, are there some projects you're thinking of or some things he's hinted at that might be done in these new sound stages?
I think the big one for me is the Superman Legacy. That's James Gunn's actual Superman film that's going to be filmed
Correct. That's coming
relatively
out.
recently. So I think there's that. We also have a Batman sequel from Matt Reeves on the table.
So that's in anticipation of these. It's coming ahead of.
DC has a multi-year plan. They've started to kind of pick up what Marvel's tried to do over the last decade or so.
Which I think they've been pretty successful in.
Marvel's been successful.
That's what I'm saying, meaning DC can be more successful, I believe.
I think having the space to work in it and not have to disassemble it every time there's a new movie also adds some continuity and consistency with the characters. So these are characters and actors that are going to be looked at long term, which means the superhero boom isn't quite blown out.
No, I don't think so by any stretch. Thanks for joining us this week. We're always excited to create experiences to bring our cinema community together.
Next week, we are excited to be reviewing The Creator and on a retro rewind, Stop Making Sense, which is re-released in theaters right now.
Yay!
I know you like that one.
I do. Please like, subscribe, and share our channel with your cinema community.
If you enjoyed the show, you might want to check out last week where we reviewed A Haunting in Venice and Dumb Money.
Remember, cinema community, movies are
Better together.
Thanks for watching. See you next week.